Okay, so we talked about drop down buttons, we talked about main buttons, and we talked about combo buttons. Now there's also another combo type of button here, and it's called a combo input button. And a combo input button is a drop down button mixed with an input field. Now you already know what a drop down button is. Let's take a look here. That's a drop down button. But what is an input field? Okay, so if I come up here to the home tab and I go to the font group and I look up in, let's look in this one here. This is the font drop down button. Well, it's actually the font input field. This is the font drop down button right here. Okay, so we have the drop down button. If I click on it, it gives us extra options here that I can choose from. But I also have an input field too, where I can click in the input field and type what I want to put. That's called an input field. All right, so I'll go ahead and type that, and I'll choose Times New Roman. Same thing here. We have a combo drop down button and an input field. All right, let me go ahead and just select this line so we can see it in real time. And let me come back up to this input field, and I'm just going to type Times New Roman. I'm going to press that, and let's go over to this combo input field button. And I can either type in my number, okay, or I can use the drop down arrow, which gives me more options. All right, and I can manually select my number here. Okay, same thing here. Let's go to a different tab. I'm gonna go to the layout tab, and I'll go to this one right here. So here we have an input field, okay, and here we have some incremental arrows. This is also a combo input button. Okay, so same thing here, combo input button. This is not necessarily a drop down button. These are incremental arrows, so we can increment up or we can increment down. Okay, but I can also come in here and click in the input field and type. I'm gonna type, let's just type 15 points. I'm gonna press enter, and you see it adds 15 points of space after my title. I'm gonna deselect so we can really see that, and here you see the 15 points of space. All right, so this is also a combo input field there, and you will see these combo input fields everywhere. Where if you just you gotta kind of know what it looks like. All right, so this one here, we can clearly type in there. We can type in there. That is an input field. Okay. Some other input field that we were dealing with earlier, for example, are in the home tab, or actually the paragraph dialog box, and we'll go to that next. That's next on the list of buttons. So I just want you to understand that there is a such thing as a combo input field button, all right, which allows you to either input data or type content, or type, so I can type something, okay, or I can go and click the drop down arrow and choose from these options here. One thing about this this font drop down arrow is we have the theme fonts at the top, we have the recently used fonts in the middle, which are very useful, and then we have all fonts at the bottom. Now these fonts at the bottom are in alphabetical order. All right, so I just wanted to point that out. A lot of people have trouble finding fonts. Few people had trouble, so I just want you to remember that. And also Microsoft beautifully puts our recently used fonts here. And why is that such a great thing? Because when you're making your document, remember, you're using a set number of fonts, maybe 2 or 3 fonts to create or beautify your document, you don't want to have to always go looking for those fonts down here. Microsoft very kindly puts them here so that we can, you know, choose them when we see fit. So if I want to use Times New Roman and Arial rounded, MT bold, I can have those there because I already use these in my document. So all recently used, and you can see it right here, recently used fonts are put here. All right, which is very cool. Now let's move on to the next set of type of buttons here. And the next set of buttons is called the dialog box launcher button. All right, and that's these things right here. All right, so the dialog box launcher there. We have the font group. So font group dialog box launcher there. We have the clipboard group dialog box launcher here. And if we click on one of these, they give us extra options that pertain to the group name. So this is the font group dialog box. If I go ahead and click on that, you can see that it brings up extra options for the font. This is the font group dialog box here. That's why it's called a dialog box launcher. It launches the dialog box for the font group in this case. All right, and we can see extra options for the font group or to format our font. I'm going to just click cancel here. Let's go ahead and click on the paragraph group dialog box launcher here. And you can see the dialog box launcher. Here's the title up here, paragraph. So this is part of the paragraph group dialog box launch dialog box. And if you look in here, we have a whole bunch of input fields that we can type in. So if I click on here, I can remove that and maybe put let's put 10. And up here, drop down buttons. Drop down button there. We have some incremental arrows. Okay. This right here, again, this arrow is called a caret arrow. And this indicates a drop down arrow. Okay. And there we have it. So all of these, so these dialog box launchers are pretty much all throughout the ribbon for different groups. Here we have the styles dialog box launcher. Some groups don't have a dialog box launcher. Okay, not all groups have one. If I go to the insert tab, we don't see pretty much any dialog box launchers there. But if I go to the layout tab, we have a dialog box launcher here. Okay, we have one here. But in the arrange group, we do not have a dialog box launcher for the arrange group. Okay, so dialog box launcher, very important. One thing to note about the dialog box launcher is that in Mac, if you're using an Apple computer, they don't have dialog box launchers. You have to use the menu that's up above the ribbon. That's for Mac users. So Mac users don't have a dialog box launcher. Okay. All right. So the last one that I want to go through is the panels and panel buttons. This one here. All right. And the panel looks like this. All right. And then this right here is the styles panel. And the panel has many buttons inside of it. All right, so we have this panel, and each panel that you see has these buttons over here. So the panel, we can scroll through the panel. So you see only 3 here, but if I click this down arrow, it'll show us more. Clicking that down arrow, and it's showing us more options, more buttons that are in the panel. Let me scroll back up the panel. I'm going to scroll up, click up. Okay, and here we are back where we started. Now the panel also has something called a more button. And this more button looks like this. It's a caret arrow with a horizontal line above it. That's called the more button. And if I click it, it's going to show me either the entire panel or more options. Here it's showing me the entire panel for this one when I click that button there. All right, so you see that more button. These are the scroll buttons to scroll up and down the panel, and here is the more button. Now, the reason why you're seeing this, by the way, is the reason why you're seeing it this way is because I'm using a laptop and my screen is not particularly big on this laptop, so it's only showing 3. But I'm sure on your computer you're using a larger screen, then the panel will be larger. For example, let me go ahead and spread this out. Let's see here. Let me see if I can grab this and spread it a little bit. Okay, so you see I just made it wider, and now the panel became bigger, became larger. All right, and here but it's still compact here. We can't see the whole panel. So because we can't see the whole panel, we can use the scroll bars, or we can use the more button. All right, the more button, which is this right here is the more button. All right, and incidentally, this group also has a dialog box launcher. All right, so yeah, there are panels also. Let me minimize this again. Okay, so there are panels in Microsoft Word. There's another panel. Let me just show you. I'm going to come over to the Design tab, and here we have the Document Formatting panel. Okay, and the same deal is here. If I go ahead and scroll, okay, I scroll down. We don't have too much to scroll. I only scrolled one line down. All right, I can scroll back up, one line up. Or I can hit this more button here, okay, and we can see the whole panel here, hitting that more button. All right, so there are actually a lot of examples of these panels, especially when you start using objects. For example, if I insert an object, let me go ahead and insert an object just to show you here, and I'm just going to insert this object here. And here again, once I insert the object, we have the shape format tab appear, and here we go again. We have a panel here. All right, we have a panel. Here's the more button right there. Okay. Also, if I go ahead over here, another panel. This is a panel of shapes. Here we have the more button down here. Here we have the scroll bar, the scroll button down here to scroll the panel. Okay, I'm scrolling down the panel, scrolling down the panel. Here's the more button. You know what? I want to see the whole panel. There's the more button. This more button is going to show me the whole panel. Okay. And again, I can show you even more panels, but the main idea is that I want you to know that panels and panel buttons exist. You're going to run into them. Okay. All right. So we've pretty much covered everything in terms of buttons. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. We can pretty much see here we have, again, a combo button. This is a drop down button. This is the main button right here, drop down. If I click the drop down, I get more options. These options are grayed out for whatever. Oh, that's because there's no shape. See, there's no shape, so the shape format disappeared. Okay, last thing that I want to let you know. And this is the kicker here. This is the big thing, or one of the big things here. If you rest your mouse on a button, it's going to give you more information about the button. Okay, any button that you rest your mouse on, it's going to give you more information. Same thing here. If I click on the drop down arrow and I click on one of these color buttons, it's going to tell me more information about these color buttons. All right, so I hope that you've gained something from this about these buttons. After this, we're going to get a little bit deeper into Microsoft Word, and I will see you in the next video.